2020 DLI dual language immersion kind of kickoff for our incoming cohort of kindergarten students. Tonight's an exciting night for us, as last year we had 2 kickoffs for K and 1, but this year we actually have our own students who are going to showcase their knowledge. We have their moms with them as well, and then we have some of our teachers here from Spain this evening. So it's exciting what 1 year can bring to a program because 2 amazing families come with suitcases to Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Why don't I start with some introductions? In the back of the room is our superintendent, Mr. Carl Gailey. I am Andrea Spaeth. I'm the Director of Student Services. Kind of standing by the iPad is Mrs. Tammy Gregory. She is the principal of the primary school. Unfortunately, Mr. Liker, our shared assistant principal between LPS and CS, is out ill. So it's just the nature of the beast working in an elementary school. There's a lot of things that go around, and our staff usually is susceptible to pick those up. So looking at an agenda tonight, we're going to start with just a general information overview so you have kind of a base knowledge. Then you're going to meet our LPS DLI team, which we are very proud of. You're going to meet the parent panel. Probably my favorite part of the night is going to be our student panel, what these students can produce 131 days into the program. So what they're going to showcase is things that could be happening in your home next year at this time. Then Mr. Gailey's going to go over our application process and timeline, and then we would love to entertain some question and answers for administrators. I'm sure our parent panel would take a few Q&A, and I'm sure our students wouldn't mind having another shot at the microphone tonight. So looking at an overview, the Lawrenceburg Community School Corporation's dual language immersion program supports all students. So we are a general education program. We are for all students, and we want them to attain high levels of academic achievement, bilingualism, biliteracy. We want them to cultivate some cross-cultural competencies through our rigorous standards, and we want high levels of student engagement. So that's great, that's a nice mission statement, but let's really kind of dive into it and see what this means for us tonight. Academic achievement. We are watching to make sure these students in these programs are at or above grade level. So we take NWEA tests, we take Ames Web tests, and some of this might be a lot of jargon and vernacular tonight, but these are going to be words you're going to get to know really, really well next year in kindergarten. Bilingualism. We want students to be able to speak and listen in our target language, which is Spanish. We want them to be biliterate, so we want them to be able to read and write in our target language and in English proficiency. We're also working on some sociocultural competencies. And you think, but this is a 5-year-old. Yes, we want them to kind of start to understand that there are places outside of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Some of these places have different cultures, different holidays. They eat different foods than we eat here, and they speak different languages. So kind of understanding kind of their small circle, but then how big the world circle is. And then community engagement. We want our community to be engaged. We want them involved. We want other people to share their cultures as well. So what really is dual language immersion? So basically, what it is our students in our program are taught the Indiana standards. They're just taught them in 2 different languages. They're taught them in English, and they're taught them in the target language. In our case, it's Spanish. So students are learning the same content, they're just learning it in 2 languages. So why a dual language program? Why not just have a specialist class like PE or art or music or media? Basically, we believe that, and research shows that this is the single best way for a child to learn a language shy of living in another country. Also, I'm sure the parents are going to show you, and the students will showcase, that young students thrive in this environment. We were very worried about kids crying, that they were going to be confused, worried. Our team back there minimal tears, if any, and the tears were just basically typical kindergarten tears that they were a little worried. I think our teachers are loving, they're caring, they're nurturing, so that definitely didn't happen for us. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is the style of program. There's two styles of programming, a one-way or a two-way. So I know some of you probably are going to leave here tonight and Google some DLI or do your own research. In Lawrenceburg, we have a one-way program. The reason why we have a one-way program is the majority of our students are English speakers. I think in our K program, there are 3 students that speak Spanish, and in our first grade program, there's 1 student that speaks Spanish at home. So one way is the majority of our students are English speakers at home, and they're learning that second language of Spanish here. Now there's another caveat when we're looking at programs. We're looking at how is the instruction day divided. In Lawrenceburg, we're divided 50-50. So half of our day is spent in English, the other half is spent in Spanish. There are schools in Indianapolis that in kindergarten they spend 90% of the day in Spanish, only 10% in English. We've opted for a 50-50, just makes for a really easy switch halfway through the day for our kids. So, a day in the life of your child. What is this going to look like here? So as you can see in grades K to 2, in the Spanish classroom, they'll have reading and writing, so essentially Spanish language arts. The math core instruction is taught in Spanish, as well as their calendar and culture time. In English, you can see we're still teaching English language arts, we're still teaching reading and writing. In math, they're having a little pre-teach of the lesson and a reteach. We don't obviously have time during the day to teach it twice, because if the standard is taught once, the students will master it. And then science and social studies, our RTI time, specials, and lunch and recess are obviously our English times of the day. Now, kind of looking at that 3-5 vision, what does this look like when they leave Lawrenceburg Primary School and get to Central Elementary? The only thing you will see is the math is going to switch. They say at least 2 years in a core subject before you make a switch. At Central Elementary School, our students take I-Learn, so we would like them to switch back to math in English at that time because it, at this time, is an English-based test. So, we kind of know the subject allocation. Now we're kind of talking, what does a day look like for your student? So what we do is an ABBA schedule. So if the students start in English on Monday, they finish in Spanish on Monday afternoon. Then they start in Spanish on Tuesday and finish in English on Tuesday afternoon. So as you can see, it kind of zigzags through to give students exposure in both each day. This also allows that maybe something didn't get finished one day, you can pick it up the next day right away when students get to school. So benefits of dual language immersion. So why would you want to enroll your child in this? Second language skills. These students are going to leave our program bilingual and biliterate. Improved academic performance. You are going to hear from some of the moms say, oh, we were worried about reading scores. That doesn't seem to be the case with some of our enhanced cognitive benefits. There's just a lot of activity going on in their brains. I feel like right now if we would image them or map them, they would be red hot with activity. I think they are so cognitively engaged and then bridging between the two languages throughout the day. And then increased cultural sensitivity, which I think some of the moms are also going to hit on. Things that they've seen or questions they've had their own children ask. And then obviously long-term benefits. They're going to be prepared for a global economy. They're going to have advanced careers because of the second language. So, speaking of long-term, what is our long-term vision here at Lawrenceburg Schools? K-2, we're committed to a 50-50 model. Then when it goes to Central Elementary School, we will continue that 50-50 model. When it gets to middle school, it's going to be a little switch because they have periods So in middle school, they're going to have a Spanish language arts and then a Spanish social studies culture class. So they'll have 2 periods a day at middle school. Now, our high school thread, we are, 8 years away from that right now, I would say. So we have some options, but we're going to kind of let data be our guide on this. That we're hoping for our students to take an advanced placement test at that time and secure some college credits. At that time, we also have a partnership with Vincennes University. These students could take some higher level Spanish classes. Now, some of you may have students at our high school and say, wait, I don't think the Spanish is going to be high enough that they're currently offering. You are correct. It's not going to be high enough. They're going to have to create some additional offerings. And then the last option is we offer French right now, so these students could take on a 3rd language, which would be pretty impressive to graduate some trilingual students out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Next up, I'm going to have Mrs. Gregory come to the mic, and she is going to introduce our dual language team.
Good evening. We are very excited to have these teachers here with us at Lawrenceburg, Indiana, at our primary school. So I would like them to come on up. Our teams, please come on up. Our teachers and our assistants, come on up. Mrs. Marshall, come on up here as well so that we can preview you. All right. They love it when I do this to them. In kindergarten, we have a 4-top, that's what we call them, and they have like this, basically it's like having a marriage because they work together day in and day out. But Mrs. Standriff is not able to be here this evening, but the rest of them are. Please just raise your hand when I call your name so they can tell who you are. Mrs. Shelby Canoe is our English instructional assistant. Miss Nastasha Gilmore is our English teacher. Mrs. Standriff, Michelle Standriff, she is not able to be here this evening, but she is our Spanish instructional assistant, and she is also able to speak Spanish and English, so that really helps, especially at the beginning, when our students were trying to figure out what in the world Senora Martin is saying. So our kindergarten Spanish teacher is Agustina Martin, and so they've been really integral in that. Our next team is our 1st grade team, and it is amazing just to see the difference in maturity in our students and our ability to acquire skills, because they basically started out in the same place, but I think because of their age, they have acquired some skills a little bit faster, and they already had some base knowledge from kindergarten in English, and they've really taken and honed that and carried that over to 1st grade in Spanish as well. Our Spanish teacher in 1st grade is Señorita Mari, Neyus Mari. Mrs. Level, Courtney Level, she is our English teacher. She is not here this evening because she just very recently had a baby. So she is home with spending time with her little one, and we'll be back after Easter. And then our instructional assistant in grade 1, who also speaks Spanish and is from Spain as well, is Senor Nunez, Jose. And Jose and Azucena just happen to be married as well. They brought their 2 children from Spain, who are 5th and 6th graders here in our district as well. So that's pretty exciting. And as Mrs. Spaeth said earlier, they literally arrived with suitcases on an airplane and came to our country to teach and offer this awesome experience for our students. So we thank you, and I thank our English teachers as well. And last but not least, she's standing up there, Mrs. Amanda Marshall is our 2nd grade teacher, and she is going to be the English teacher who is going to have that happy marriage next year with a new teacher that we have yet to select, and we are working, that is in process, but she will be the English counterpart for our second grade team, which our first graders will be moving up to them. So thank you all so much. And I just want to give them an opportunity. I think Mrs. Spade told them that they had to tell them a little bit of like what they like about the program or something that they would like to share. You see how this goes? All right. So, something that you like about the program, something that you're surprised about the program, maybe a success that you want to share. All right, ready? Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think the most exciting part for me was seeing how they carried on the accent. When she says things to me and she's trying to teach me in Spanish, I don't say it quite as correctly as she does, but the kids don't have that block. They repeat it just how they hear it, and it's neat to hear their accent and hear them say it correctly.
And they correct you as well.
They correct
Yes.
Well, I've been teaching English in Spain for 19 years, and I think I have never had the feeling that they have learned as quick as they have learned in here. Maybe it's because they have 50-50, but it's true that for me it's amazing to see how they are able to reproduce and to use in a very good way and probably every single structure or vocabulary that you teach them. So I'm so happy and with them. I'm so proud of them, and I'm so happy to have this experience.
Okay, I had fears before it, just trying to squish my day into half a day because we're all-day kindergarten, and I was surprised at how much they could pick up on in such little time as well. And what's the coolest thing too is now that they're so advanced, sometimes I'll listen to Miss Canoe test them, and she has to say, no, like put on your English hat, no, put on your Spanish hat, because sometimes when they see things, they're telling us in Spanish and in English. So they're switching languages in both classes, so we just have to remind them which class they're in. However, their scores on their tests that we just recently got back, I was very impressed with, because over some of the training that we've gotten, we were set up to look at scores and be okay with just a little average or maybe even below to where they're going to get somewhere higher, and our scores shot through the roof. So I would be happy to show that if you guys can see it. But anyways, I don't know, I was very nervous in the beginning, but now I'm just amazed. And because they picked such a great person and we've become very good friends, it shows in our classroom as well. And the communication between our four top couldn't be any better. So I'm grateful.
First of all, saying that they get everything super quickly. I mean, I am amazed how fast they learn. They get everything and they can produce. And even at the beginning, when I taught the sounds and the vowels, they got the first time, and they can reproduce well. I mean, very good. So, for example, going at the beginning to the other class, to the teachers, to the English one, and say words in Spanish, that the other teacher was like amazing, like what have you told me? So like she didn't know what was, but yeah, they are doing the great job.
I don't speak English. I'm from Spain, like say Miss Gregory. I'm from a little village next to Madrid. My family come here, and we are excited to stay here. And I'm helping to teach English, Señorita Marie, to teach Spanish. And the kids teach me speak English, and I think that in a little time I can read. My family and me, all the family, my kids, are very, very, very exciting because it's a very big opportunity we are teaching we are teacher in Spanish 26 years ago, and now it's other country, other people, other opportunity, other partner, and other family, and then we're happy here.
And I am completely fresh. I have no experience yet, but kind of like Ms. Gilmore, I'm starting to get those first year jitters. However, I'm very grateful that it's a year in, so they're kind of figuring it out, and then hopefully next year will be a little bit easier in the beginning, and we'll have all of the little issues fixed, and it's going to be smooth, and I'm really excited to find my new partner.
Thank you all very much, because I did put you on the spot. Sorry about that. Now we are excited for you to meet our parent panel. Last year we borrowed a panel of parents we invited from Batesville, because Batesville has a dual language immersion program, but their target language is Mandarin. It is not Spanish. So for me, this is super exciting that we have our very own parent panel made up of our students and our parents here. So I first want to introduce each of our parents, and I'm going to introduce them, and then I'm going to introduce their student and give them each the opportunity to talk, and give them the microphone so everybody can hear really well. So I'm going to start first with Mrs. Amber Lansing, and Amber, will you wait for your hands? And her daughter is in our kindergarten cohort, and she is Avery Lansing.
Hi, I am also a fifth grade teacher at Central. You may recognize me from there. And I am on the DLI committee also. When I heard of the opportunity, I jumped on it immediately, because my husband and I really regret not knowing a second language. There have been opportunities in his professional career where he could advance and make more money, honestly. I just thought, how great would that be, to be able to go places and communicate with people in other countries. So I was on board immediately, because I valued it even before the program existed, and I felt that in the United States we're behind. So many other countries so many people are bilingual. So I really didn't need to be sold on it. I knew that it was something that I really, really wanted. A couple things as far as success stories. When I work with my daughter at home, when we talk about vowel sounds or letter sounds, every night, well, this is how you say it in Spanish. It really has built upon her English knowledge. Learning Spanish has made her a better student in English. And she can go back and forth between those sounds. And she corrects me all the time, because I do not pronounce things correctly. After 2 years of Spanish, I have no idea what I'm doing, and she lets me know that is not how you say it. And Google Translate helps a lot for our students. It really does. I've seen her confidence grow. Her self-esteem is through the roof. She loves sharing her knowledge with other people, and she loves telling people about the program, even if they don't ask, or we're in situations that, no one's really talking about what they're doing at school. And I think that's a huge thing with some students, is just the self-confidence they gain from learning a second language. As far as challenges, I really haven't had any. I think there is a little concern about class size, but I can tell you that the instructional assistants are seen as teachers in that classroom. She loves them all, and I don't know, I really can't say that I've had any challenges at home either. Literally, I don't know how to pronounce things. I need to get better at that. I need to learn more. A couple of things. Let's see. I think I underestimated just how much she would learn. They talk about math focus, but I'm telling you right now, she is picking up everything in both languages at just full tilt, full speed. And my 3-year-old now, say the month in Spanish, he doesn't really know what he's saying, but he definitely repeats her, and I think that as the years go on, when he enters the program, I can't imagine where he's going to be just being exposed to that. So if you have younger children, I think that's a huge thing too, and what they'll be able to pick up.
report as well. And Mrs. Faith and I, we asked them some questions, and they just blew us away with their responses. So we are just so grateful that you all are taking time out of your busy schedules to be here and share with us. So, Mrs. Donker.
We're all really excited to be here too. I think as you'll hear, we're pretty big fans of the program, so that should say something that we are. There's a lot of words there, so I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes versions. I'm originally from Oklahoma, so my proximity to Texas and then occasional trips through summer with my church to Mexico. I learned some Spanish in school myself and had very minimal opportunities to practice it. But after college, I actually got to move and live in Honduras, a Spanish-speaking country, for a couple of years. And so that was when I got my immersion experience. And I would just say from that, my husband and I both traveled around the world in various capacities, and we both knew immediately that we feel like language is a huge connector. It's a huge way to encounter culture. It's a great opportunity to start to make and celebrate differences and similarities around the world, and so we knew that was something we wanted to instill in our kids. And so what a great opportunity we saw this program as, to actually get that immersion without having to travel around the world. So we were really excited early on too. I was excited because through the immersion, I assumed, and I have now seen it for firsthand, that the language acquisition is much more native sounding. You guys know a lot of Spanglish speakers, probably that most of us who learned it in school are more Spanglish, but these kiddos are learning and will communicate in a native tongue with whoever they encounter, and it will actually sound very natural. So we were excited about that. We also, Jude is, he's a June birthday, and so I will say that when we thought about this program, one of the things we did do is really think about, is it a good fit for our kiddo, the way he learns, what we thought about, and we thought this specifically would be really engaging. We want our kids to be lifelong learners, and so we thought this might be a fun way to keep him really interested throughout his day, and it has been. So that was one of our thoughts, and I agree. I think the United States is, we tend to look at language learning as though it's something like really hard, but we forget that so much of the world operates in multiple languages. And although English is a very dominant language, so a lot of people learn English, we have to remember that that they're learning English on top of their native language too. So worldwide, it's going to be a huge advantage, I think, too. So, but again, I think it came down to, once Lawrenceburg had really proved to us that they had a very well thought out program, had well studied, had traveled to see other programs. Once they kind of proved that to us, we just had to think about, is this going to be a good fit for our kiddo? It's a little bit of a leap of faith, but we are really, really glad that we did it. So some of the quick success stories, his pronunciation is amazing. And that's what you'll hear. We all get corrected quite a bit in our homes now. But their pronunciation is just, it's right on par. And so it's really cool to hear that. We're really glad that we have jumped in. And when I asked Jude recently what his favorite thing about kindergarten was, he said, well, it's Spanish. And he then said, Mom, reading in Spanish is way easier than in English. And I think he's right, actually. So he's enjoying it. Again, we don't see like that switch. They're just learning in both languages. Sometimes he has to say, hey, is this worksheet in English or Spanish, Mom? So he knows how to write the date or different things like that. So they're just learning it intuitively, which is really cool. As far as challenges, honestly, the only challenge that we have even considered is just the larger class size. So I can't speak highly enough, though, of our teachers and staff. They do this incredibly. I'm really impressed by our students. One other thing I want to throw this in there is the transitions throughout the day and throughout the week. I don't think I would have believed it until I saw it. So to imagine kindergartners are going to switch halfway through their day and it was going to be okay with that many kiddos, it actually is. It's astounding to watch. They know what they're doing. They transition easily. Even the morning, afternoon, I thought, I'm going to be lost, but it's okay because our teachers know what they're doing, and that's really all that matters. But Jude doesn't mention it. He's never had a challenge with it. And honestly, the more I thought about it, some kids are fresher in the morning, some kids are fresher in the afternoon, so it really gives both classes that chance to catch the kiddo at a good time. And that's something I never would have considered, but fortunately our program considered that. So, again, they're learning differently. Immersion is just really cool to watch for somebody who kind of grew up learning academic Spanish. They're learning syllables versus just learning and memorizing vocabulary words. They're just really learning in a cool way. Quick prose. Jude's reading ability has just recently skyrocketed in both languages. It's like something has clicked, and it's really cool to see how those languages are actually supporting one another. He can compare and contrast the sounds and the words. He knows them in both languages. I would not say it slowed him down at all. And we were prepared for maybe a little slowdown in a glitch, but we haven't seen it, so that's pretty exciting. Last thing, they ask about cons, and I can't honestly say there are any cons, so what I would say is maybe this is just words of consideration as a parent. I think you have to kind of just consider how ready you are to actively engage with your kiddo, to kind of stay up to date, to know what's going on. A lot of times, like Senora Martin has been excellent about sending out pronunciation hints and things through the Dojo app. So you just have to consider that it might take that one extra step from you as a parent to really engage actively with your kiddo. And again, gauge your own attitude. If those hints don't quite come soon enough for you, or if you feel like you're behind, again, I think we've probably all used Google and Alexa. I don't find her to be that helpful sometimes, but just will you be able to take it on as, hey, let's learn this together, let's find the answer together, versus if you're going to get frustrated, that's something just to consider up front. So, yeah, I think that's it. And I don't think you're even going to see any hiccups. So,
Awesome, thank you so much. Our next parent is Miss Rika Cutter, and she has Silas, who is a first grader here at Lordsburg Primary School.
Hello. I'm going to echo a lot of what these ladies have kind of described. I was actually working in the school district when the buzz about the DLI program was coming, and they kind of confirmed it was going to be in kindergarten, and Silas was currently in kindergarten, and I was really kind of bummed. And then all the rumors started circulating about them also joining a first grade cohort, and as soon as they confirmed that, I was fist pumping. It was very exciting, and I think it's actually been helpful for the school to have two grade levels go into it at the same time, because they can talk with one another. They've got two different grade levels of first graders and kindergartners who interact with one another as well, and just sets of parents that we can kind of, how is your experience going? Because for our family, I have 3 more children who will be entering into the school building, including my daughter, who will be entering kindergarten and hopefully also the Spanish program. So I just wanted to share that first. For us, the decision was pretty easy. We personally have a niece. She's a 6th grader who lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and she went to a K-5 program that was DLI for Spanish. I think their breakdown was 80-20, and her language is phenomenal. And Silas just adores his big cousin, and when I told him that, he could learn Spanish like Brooklyn, he was all about it. He was very excited. Silas is a smart cookie, and I also felt like it would be a good challenge for him and keep him engaged while he was moving on through his education. And then, I spoke with my brother and my sister-in-law just about their experiences, and they just were completely all for it. And they were very highly encouraging, and it's nice, at least for our family, to have another outlet to kind of probe, or call and say, hey, Brooklyn, I don't know what this word is, can you please help your cousin out? So, we also, asked Silas, as parents, you're considering the pros and cons, but I think you also need to engage your children and ask them if they're even interested in learning a new language. And if you do move forward with the program, one of my, suggestions is really start pointing out all the things that their child could be learning. If you're going to the library, start pulling out cultural books about Spain and Mexico, and just really building that up so that they're set for entering the next school year. And then one of the other reasons why I was interested in the DLI program, I have 4 children, and having 4 bilingual children is something that I could never provide outside of a school day. And that's pretty amazing for Southeastern Indiana to be able to have those opportunities. Success stories. Silas is reading in Spanish. He's teaching his younger siblings. I think all of them at this point can spout out how to count from 1 to 20 and starting to learn the alphabet in Spanish, which is really fun to see him take on that role as a teacher as well as he's practicing himself. Every time I've asked Silas about his first grade year, how's it going? What do you like the most? And he's always saying Spanish, 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 Spanish. At one point, I took him to the dentist. I took him out of school early. Most kids, fist pump with that. Sorry, teachers. But he asked me if I was going to take him back to school because he knew he was missing Spanish. And I thought right then and there, like, okay, that's pretty cool that my kid wants to go back to school after a dentist appointment. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Challenges for him, I don't see any challenges. He can share if he does or not, but I keep asking him and he doesn't have any issues. As a parent, for the first grade year, we are the first cohort, so as a parent, I was pretty worried. How's this gonna go? He's already had a year of kindergarten in English only, how is he gonna adapt? All of those fears were subsided by the time that, 2 weeks into school. So professionally, I was a little worried about the class size, and I think we all kind of feel that way too. It's more, in my opinion, at this point, our problem versus the kids' problem, because they don't know anything different, and it's our personal stories that it hasn't affected him. He has lots of buddies. What have we learned? Apparently my husband and I do not know how to speak Spanish at all or pronounce words. It's very difficult to be corrected by a 7-year-old every evening. But that's also a fun thing for us too. Pros, again, not that standardized testing is the end-all be-all, but Silas is a very smart young man, and his scores grew by 42%, which was amazing from fall to winter, considering where he started. And for me, that was just mind-blowing. So it's doing something to his little noggin. And then I also asked my daughter Eliza, who's going to be entering kindergarten, what she was looking forward the most to coming to kindergarten. And she said, well, learning to read in Spanish, Mom. And so I think that's a huge pro for us. The only cons that we've ever heard or complaints out of Silas is that occasionally first grade gets a second recess and they weren't able to go out for that for some reason. And then parent-teacher conferences were only 15 minutes, and that was a little bit challenging because we had lots of questions and felt like that was not enough time. So,
Thank you. Our next parent is Jessica Esther, and she has Cohen. Cohen is over there. Wave at everybody, Cohen. Cohen is a first grader.
Hello. Again, I'm going to echo a lot of what they said. I was maybe a little more reluctant than like Amber was at first. Having had I have a 6th grader as well. So kind of comparing like, okay, no, I know what I'm doing. I've been there, done this. Do I really want to rock the boat? And Fillmore. And she basically said, you're right, I was with you, I wasn't really on board, but then once we did the research and we, visited these places, she said, I am so bummed that none of my kids get to do this. And immediately I was on board. Because as a parent and educator, she's the star. And so when she said she's in, I was in pretty much. I did a little of my own research as well, and pretty much everything you found showed that cognitively they not only advance in Spanish, but also in English. There's many, many times professionally, I work in pediatrics, and man, I wish I would have stuck with that second language. I always ask Cohen if he can come and help me because I work in Northern Kentucky, and there's at least daily, I wish I knew Spanish. Socially, we love our trips to Mexico here and there. And yeah, so now it's really cool when you take Cohen places and he's eavesdropping at Legoland and telling me when people are going to lunch. And I'm like, oh, that's what they said? Great. And then I try to talk back to him in Spanish, and as they said, I don't roll my R's, and I make TH sounds, and it's not a TH sound, it's a THZ sound. And I'm very Spanglish. So success stories. One thing I love is we run into senior and junior at soccer sometimes, and those two will start speaking to each other in Spanish, and I see everybody kind of turn around and look at each other and smile. I'm like, yeah, this is my little Spanish-speaking guy, and I don't know what he's talking to his teacher about, but it sounded good. He is picking up more Spanish. I took 2 years of it long ago in high school, and he has surpassed me in this half a year than what I learned in 2 years of high school Spanish. I don't know if that says much about me, but he's doing awesome. Challenges, exactly what they said. I have to pull out my Google Translator every now and then. Tonight he was doing a homework sheet, and I was like, oh, what is that? And he wasn't answering me, so at first I thought he didn't know, and I looked it up, and then I said, buddy, do you know what? He said, it's kitchen, Mom. Right. Okay, so you knew that, and I clearly did not know that. I think one of the other, as they said, the class size was a little concerning, and then I was also a little concerned about them being with the same kids for the next, 5 years, 6 years, and wondering if they wouldn't get to meet new kids. But really, I think as much of the culture and everything that they are getting from the Spanish program far supersedes anything I would want them to learn from other kids. So that challenge has really been set aside. But what we have learned, I am very, very glad I chose this for Cohen. Again, I have a 6th grader, and Cohen reassures him every day that he'll help him once he gets to high school and starts taking his foreign languages. He asks him all the time, hey Cohen, how do I say this? And Cohen will go right on and teach his 6th grade brother what he's doing. I was a little worried about the English side of learning things. They're only going to get half of the time in English. How is that going to affect scores and his advancement in English reading and English math? And as they have said, I was shocked to see his last couple of Ames Web scores and all those scores that are just soaring. And not to compare my children because they are very different, but the level at which he is reading, he's bringing home small chapter books in 1st grade. That wasn't happening with my other kiddo. So any concerns I had about English advancement has been pushed aside as well because he is, as she said, blowing my mind. I was also concerned about the switching the letter sounds. What makes a sound in English does not make that sound in English or in Spanish. And I thought, are they going to be able to flip? And they do. They do it like a switch. They know immediately what language they're in and what sound is going on. I'm working in pediatrics. I have a couple of parents. I have one that works for Offerman in Northern Kentucky. Their kids actually live in Dearborn. They live in Dearborn, and he's already started putting a little bug in my ear about how can I get into Lawrenceburg because of the DLI program. He said, man, I really wish our school could, get on board with this. He said, I can't get everybody in. He said, I'm truly amazed when I hear, the positives that this program can bring to a school. So I also have one Spanish-speaking family that has said how much they have looked into this, and when they found out, I don't know how they found out that it was in Lawrenceburg, and then they said, isn't that where you live? And I said, yeah. And they said, we are truly thinking about moving to Lawrenceburg just to be involved in this program, so our kids can get a little bit of that family culture that we speak Spanish at home, but wouldn't it be great to have both when they were at school? We're losing them. They're all pros, the reading level is getting faster. He loves bragging, like they were saying. He eats it up. He sings happy birthday in Spanish every family gathering. And I think all that's said. And really cons, I can't come up with much. He loves it. And like they said, it's totally his favorite part. What do you love about school? Spanish.
Thank you. Our last parent this evening is Haley McCool, and her daughter is Scarlett McCool, who's in our first grade cohort this year.
Hi there. Again, much of what they've already said. Our deciding factor, though, for the DLA program was that we do know somebody who's involved in the Batesville program. And the Batesville program, and they've had success with learning Mandarin. So just being able to implement another language here for Scarlett, we thought she would have some additional opportunities professionally and personally as she gets older. Success stories for her is that she does implement Spanish into her everyday life. She likes to speak more Spanish than English, and she's teaching what she's learned to her family, to her friends, to her sister who takes Spanish at the high school level. At home, we jokingly made a rule that after 8 o'clock, it's all English, no Spanish. But of course, I would never discourage her from teaching and speaking something that she loves to do. But sometimes I'm like, sister, it's bath time, and I don't know what you're saying. I'm like, let's go. So, and again, we haven't had any challenges or struggles in terms of class sizes. I know people have said that. I wasn't necessarily concerned with that. She's a social butterfly, so I didn't think that the size of the classes and the people that she would be around would be something that would bother her, and it hasn't at all. One thing that I have learned is that I don't speak Spanish as well as I once could, or I thought I once could. I took a foreign language in both grade school and high school, and nothing compares to what she has learned. Here she goes, in this short amount of time. So I'm very proud of her for that. I do find myself doing Google Translate into Siri as well, just to make sure that I know what she's talking about when I have to check her homework. I'm one of those parents who watches the YouTube videos that are sent home, and I try to engage myself as much as I can in case I do have to help her. I've asked also if I find myself struggling or she's struggling, is there something available for me to do that I can use to help her at home, and there is. I haven't had to use it yet, but I'm told that that type of information is in fact available should I need it. So that's good to know. Pros and cons. I mean, again, her test scores, she's not really a child that has ever struggled. She loves school, she loves to learn, but her test scores have just skyrocketed in both languages, and I was really impressed and actually very proud of her. I'm proud of her all the time, of course, but especially with this, because I didn't know what to expect. So to be able to see it on paper and to be able to see the success that she has had in just this short time is amazing to me. I'm very proud of her and glad that we chose to do this. The teachers do an excellent job, in my opinion, of bridging the gap between the two classes, so the English and the Spanish. If there's any questions, they work together very well to make sure that you get what you need and they have what they need to have a good day and to make sure that they're learning in the languages that I know some of you had said about, am I doing this in English or in Spanish? But I think that she has been able to figure that out in terms of the good relationships between your teachers, the communication with us and the parents, and it's been a a good year. So I don't have anything else to add that they haven't already said, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you so much. I can't agree with you more. Like, language is contagious in this building, and you are right. Spanish is much easier because English has so many exceptions to the rules when we're learning to read and spell and do those things in English. So now we are excited to show you and let our students show off a little bit, as well as our teachers, of what our students have learned. Today was the 130th day of school. We bundled on morning announcements. We have 50 more days, and in this very short time, these students have done some remarkable things. It's funny that you guys said this about older students. We have some of our high school students that come and serve as peer tutors in our classrooms, and most of them have been in Spanish for a year, maybe a year and a half, now almost maybe a year and 9 weeks, because we're getting close to that, and they are equally amazed at what our kindergarten and first graders can do, and many of them speak better than they do. I see there's a less reluctance for our primary students to speak than our older students to speak, because they're so confident in their learning. So, are you guys ready? Are you ready to show them what you know? Like, stretch your stuff a little bit here. All right. So we're going to start with our kindergarten, and Senora Martin is going to come up with them. So again, really quickly, these are two of our kindergarten students. Senora Martin, will you have them introduce themselves? Just have the students tell you what their names are.
June number. Avery Lindsay.
Jude nos va a presentar a su familia, ¿vale? Lo va a hacer en español. Venga, Jude, ¿empezamos? ¿Sí? Pues venga. ¿Quién es?
Esta es mi abuela.
Muy bien.
Este es mi abuelo. Esto es mi mamá. Esto es mi abuela.
Fenomenal. ¿Qué más hay?
Este es mi abuelo.
Perfecto. ¿Quién es?
Este es mi papá.
¿Quién es esta?
Esta es mi hermana.
Muy bien.
Este es mi hermano.
¿Y quién es este?
Este soy yo.
Fenomenal. Un aplauso. Un aplauso. Now they are going to make a game with a part of the body, okay? Bueno, elige uno.
Oreja.
Oreja. Así, que se vea. Fenomenal. Otra.
Ojo. pierna,
Muy bien.
boca, pelo,
Venga.
nariz, cabeza,
Muy bien. ¿Y la última?
mano,
Un aplauso. Sí. Bueno, pues you can read some of the frequency words that we are learning.
como, cuando, otoño, una, comer, beber, sol, más, dónde.
Fenomenal. Muy bien.
So a big change, and they've alluded to it, is the Spanish language is taught syllabically. So when they're teaching, they're always teaching a consonant paired with a vowel. So I think these kids are like, oh gosh, you want me to go back to syllables? Because they're beyond syllables now, but it's just a good exercise for you to see how they learn things syllabically.
Ponéis en medio así, para hablar los tres, ¿vale? ¿Tres juntos? ¿Sí? Vale, vamos a empezar.
Ta, te, ti, to, tu. Na, te, ni, no, tu. Ya, nie, ni, no, yo. Ra, re, ri, ro, ru.
Vale, y ahora lo hacemos a...
La, le, te,
Vale, vamos a hacer palabras, ¿vale?
cade. Sute. Santo. Mopoca.
They're putting the two syllables together to make a word.
Muy bien, chicos. Vale, Sainas, ¿tienes el papel? So they are going to read productions that that they did themselves in the classroom. So he's going to. What is the topic? ¿Qué tema?
I'm going to say what I like and not like.
¿Cómo se dice I like? Uy,
Me gusta.
¿y cómo se dice I don't like?
No me gusta.
Muy bien, yo te hago, ¿vale? ¿Tú lees? Luego, ¿quieres tú o prefieres un
Me gusta hamburguesa. No me gusta uvas. No me gusta gambas. Me gusta pescado. Me gusta jamón.
Ok. ¿Qué es uvas?
Grapes.
Muy bien. ¿Y qué significa carne?
Meat.
¿Y qué significa pescado?
Fish.
¿Y gambas?
Shrimp.
Muy bien. going to read another word, okay, that she did. ¿Y sobre qué es?
Mi cara.
¿Y qué significa mi cara?
My face. Yo tengo dos ojos. Yo tengo muchos dedos. Yo no tengo gafas. Yo tengo una boca. Yo tengo dos orejas. Yo tengo una nariz. Yo tengo una cara. Yo tengo muchos dientes.
Okay, so now he's going to talk about some of our activities that we do as, for example, as Tech Tuesday, Tech Martes, we say, because a little bit of Spanish and English, okay? And he's going to talk of one of these activities. ¿Quieres contarles un poquito? Okay. ¿Quieres mirarlo primero? ¿O quieres hablar? ¿Mirar? Vale.
Just so you can hear it a little better.
Zapatos, calcetines, pantalones, chaqueta, camiseta, gorro.
Cohen, can you explain what Señorita Maria signed and how nice your brother was to help you?
Yeah, when you were doing the assignment, you needed to have someone to record it for you, and you needed someone to have those clothes, and then you need someone to point it. Yeah, and it's really good that people help you.
Cohen, can I ask you a question? So how did you get this to Señorita Mari?
There's this thing at the front of the thing, and it shows you how to do it.
And there you have it. So the instructions are at the front of the thing. Awesome job, students. This was fantastic. Parents, thank you. Mr. Gailey's going to talk real briefly about an application timeline, and then we will gladly entertain any questions you have.
Since I'm at the end, I'm going to make it quick because I know you've been sitting here for a while. Looking at the application timeline, you have it also in your packet. The application will open tonight. There will be a link at the end that you'll be able to go online, click on that link, or type in the link to your web browser. The application will close May 31st, 2020. And families will be notified of the acceptance during the week of July 13th. But our goal is that we hope that we'll be able to do that notification much earlier, the week of June 8th. The reason, I'll continue as I talk about it, you'll understand why there's a gap that we may have. The application contract statement, we will ask all families to sign an agreement and kind of like a contract. And it's just kind of saying that you're joining in and partnering in this program with us, and you're agreeing as the parents. You heard them talk about that it does take a lot of work on their part to be able to work with their students at night too, to work with them. So all students in the DLI program will be instructed in and exposed to both the Spanish and English language. Academic instruction will be delivered using a dual language model so that 50% of the instruction is in Spanish and 50% in English. Parents must support our school-wide expectation that students will be communicating solely in Spanish during immersion classes. I understand that for the first few weeks, my child may not understand what the teacher is saying, and this could cause some initial frustration. I will support and encourage my child during this period and not remove my student from the program for those reasons. I understand that research indicates it takes, at minimum, 5 to 7 years to develop a second language. It is expected that my child will remain in the program for the 6-year period, kindergarten through 5th grade, and that removing my child from the program sooner will hinder their ability to become a balanced bilingual. I understand that learning a language takes time. It's common for young emergent bilinguals to develop initial literacy at a slower pace initially than their monolingual peers, because my student is working through 2 processes at the same time. I understand that this is natural, will be expected, and I will be patient through this process. The curriculum in the DLI program is the same as the classes not in the program. The only difference is in the DLI program, the students receive their curriculum in 2 languages. Parents agree to support the school and help communicate the importance of the program to their children and the community. Parents must ensure that their child attends school regularly and on time. The DLI program is a team effort between the parent, the child, and the teacher. In the unusual circumstance that a child should fail to progress in the program, the parent agrees to meet with school personnel to address the best ways to remedy obstacles. Commitment to the DLI summer camp prior to kindergarten year. So we do a kind of an intro a week before school starts. We try to kind of bring them in to introduce them to the scheduled routines. That way it's a little bit of kind of icebreaker for them with the program. So the application process and program admittance. So with this, when you click on the link, kind of the priority that we have for getting into the program, we'll first begin with staff. We'll have first priority, followed by students that are LCSC residents. So if you live within the Lawrenceburg district, you would kind of be the second tier, and then third tier would be transfer students outside of our corporation that want to come into the corporation. Class size will be predetermined by the administrative team. You did hear them talk about our class sizes. We looked this year, we were looking at 30 and 30, a total of 60. We are having discussions that if we do kind of bring that down just slightly. We did do a lot of research on this. We did visits. Utah is a statewide DLI state, and when we went there, we were able to see from kindergarten through high school classes, and throughout their state, they have no aids in any of their classes in any grade levels throughout their state, and the only time they look to put an aid anywhere in any classroom is after they reach 30 plus students in any class, and that's whether it's a DLI class or a non-DLI class. So we are still looking to potentially to reduce those numbers slightly. If more students apply than what we do have slots for, we will use a lottery system to be able to choose our students during a school board meeting. So we would do that at one of our regular public monthly meetings to be able to hold that. If additional spots are open after all of our LCS staff and resident students are admitted, then that's when we would go to that next tier and look for transfer students to be able to be accepted. Again, if we still had more transfer students than slots, we would go back to the lottery system to be able to use that. Last year, we did have a lottery system for our transfers, and we did hold that at a public meeting, and we basically went ahead and drew those names because we still wanted a waiting list. That way, if we reach out to families, and we do have a family that after they sit down and decide that it's not right for their family, then therefore we can go right down the waiting list and contact that next family, and we don't have to go back and try and pick somebody else. We already have that waiting list available and ready for us. So those are a number of kind of processes that we will use for this. At the end of your program, you will see the last slide does have a link on it. So this will be that link that when you go home, you can type that in and be able to kind of then start the process if you are all on board and ready to jump in at this time.
Any questions? We've talked at you for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Go ahead.
I have twins.
Yes.
Is that going to prohibit them from being admitted at the same time? Do you prohibit families from being together in class?
Absolutely not.
And that's great because we already had that.
We already have
scenario,
twins.
so.
And we have twins this year, so.
Okay.
Yep. No problem at all.
I just want to be clear, can you get out of the contract after that first year? Are you able to just?
So we definitely encourage you not to. We encourage you to make that commitment for our 5 to 7 years.
So no, so you can't get out of it.
We have not had anyone ask to get out of their contract
I just
this
want to
year.
make sure, just,
Right.
probably a no.
I think we would weigh things individually, looking at individual circumstances.
So to carry on his question, so if my child is falling behind,
Yes,
is he able to go to a regular classroom?
they are, but we have a few, your teachers behind you, we have a few that are falling behind. We look at this as a K-5 journey for these students. So we're willing to work with them in the program. The kids in kindergarten that maybe not be where they are, they're getting that little bit of extra help within the confinements of the class. First grade, we have somebody that comes and pulls them out for a little extra assistance.
If they just fall behind it, do they get held back for it because it was an issue with later on, like the program?
Yeah, so we kind of weigh those individually. Is the child making progress? What do the administration, the teachers, the parents think as like a team decision? So chances are if a child falls behind, we kind of set some goals, we intervene in that goal area, and then we revisit it. Like, are they making progress? Is this intervention working? Obviously, we want people to stay with the program. We know it's a K-5 journey, so if they're a little behind, we're going to work with them. Our teachers just had meetings and provided some families some strategies to use in the event kids do fall behind.
If they do excel in the Spanish part and not the English part, do they do the same thing?
Yes, we intervene on both. I will say, meeting with the teams of teachers on data, it seems like if they're compromised in English, they're also compromised in Spanish and vice versa. It's usually pretty consistent performance in both environments. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You, as parents or even teachers, find that students get overstimulated. Now, let me preface this by saying all of the parents said that their students had higher test scores anyway or excelled. If I had an average student, let's say, is that overstimulation from going back and forth?
Part of, I guess after they jump in, one of the things I will share is, as she's talking about with some of kind of the answer to the questions, is with the program, some of the research also shows that if a student does have a slight disability, a learning disability, that going through, I understand, but even with any kids that might be average or low, that with this, sometimes they see greater gains or closing those gaps if they do have a slight gap as well.
I feel like Mrs. Knopper wanted. Oh, did you forget?
Well, I have two older ones besides Jude, both of which have done really well in high ability classes. We did not think that maybe Jude would get chosen for those similar reasons. He has a very different learning ability. He's just a more hands-on, and maybe not academically wired in the way that my other kiddos are, and so I had a lot of those questions too. And we watched it in preschool too. So he went to preschool. It took a whole semester, even in preschool, before like he wasn't learning numbers and letters quite as quickly as I thought maybe he would. And so we saw a very similar thing happen this year though. Even in the dual language, it takes him a while to get comfortable, to get confident, and all of a sudden, I mean, in the last month or two, it's clicked, it's turned on. So he did not learn his sight words very rapidly. He's had to work at it more than my other kiddos have, but he has, and they clicked, they came on, and he's learned them in 2 languages. That helps.
Yeah.
I feel like having a boy, kind of busy, and so it almost does break up the day a little bit. It's kind of something new to, yes. With having a son, my older son is you got to reinforce slower. Now knowing what I know now, I would put him in it. And he's a much slower learner than what Cohen is, but I would do it again if I was putting him back.
And I think also our teachers, it doesn't matter if they're in the DLI program or not in the DLI program, we really understand students at this age. 5 to 8-year-olds are in this building. They have attention spans from 3 to usually 10 minutes. So we do a lot and build into our day opportunities to move. We know our students have to move. They cannot sit there for long periods of time. and do what we need them to do and to be efficient with what we are doing. So our teachers build that in. And at the beginning of the year, we do that a lot more frequently. We learn and work on building our stamina to be able to attend for longer without having to move. But that is just something that's built into this building, especially and with the age of our young learners.
So just know we're sitting here in amazement with some of your students, our future students, at the tables with you, and they're all sitting so nicely. So good job, moms and dads and guardians.
What are some of the struggles you've had this year with the program?
Struggles we've had with the program.
I think one, creating a master schedule, which our teachers, our teams, they function together, like as our cohort DLI teams, but then they also have to function within the entire grade level as well. So that was a struggle to build a master schedule that allowed them to collaborate and be a part of the entire kindergarten team or the first grade team, but then also give them time to where each day they have a common, their special times are the same so that they can work together as their DLI team as well. I think the Jumpstart, I think I was personally concerned about, oh my God, how are we going to move 60 children back and forth? This is not going to go up. They are pros. Like these teachers, that was something that we really practiced and emphasized during our Jumpstart. These guys are efficient. It takes like 2 minutes for them to get their tubs and get in line, and they move to the other room. They put their tubs away. Everything is very organized. They know their routine, they know their procedure, and it, like less than 5 minutes of interruption in their day, and they're in the other room. It's amazing. So I think that was a worry for me and a struggle, and I think they worried about that too, and it has not been that.
I will say a struggle that we continue to overcome is your children from your English-speaking homes come with just background knowledge. They know vocabulary words. They know, just simple, they can relate back to it. So I think in first grade, we're working on story problems. So think when you did story problems, second or third grade. So now we're doing story problems in first grade. Our kids can read and decode the words. They just don't know what all those words mean. So kind of supporting some of their language if they don't have the background vocabulary knowledge. Senorita Mari does a lot of scaffolding, and then she'll use some English during some of that instruction to support some of that background. So she's been a master and has done a really nice job at that. Any other?
Is the application for this program, does that suffice as the application for getting into the kindergarten also, or are there two different applications?
Yes.
Actually, I was going to have to give a promo for the day. April, go ahead.
April 9th is our kindergarten roundup date. If you go on our website, we will ask you to book an appointment so that when you come with your child that day at your appointment time, we're going to put them through the paces and you as well. They're going to get a tour. You're going to be you get the homework for the day as you're going to be registering them online and giving us a lot of information that we need, like birth certificate, social security, immunization records, those kind of things. We'll have you do that. While you're doing that, we're going to have them do some screening, see where they're at. When we are done with that, we're going to reunite you together. We're going to tell you how they did on that screening and give you some things to help them be ready for kindergarten that will make their transition smoother. And so those are two separate things. Registering for kindergarten and registering for the DLI program are separate applications.
Is the kindergarten application already up, or is that coming up?
There's an application, so you'll go onto the corporation website to LPS, to their website, and you'll book a time for April 9th to come in. It'll consider about an hour.
Yes.
So you'll be here for about an hour.
That day is when you actually give the information.
Correct.
Correct.
For just kindergarten, general kindergarten registration.
Everybody for kindergarten. And it is not on the port. We don't have it open yet for registration yet. But the booking is the link for the booking is up there to book your time to come, to make a time to come for kindergarten.
I just want to go back to your question about concerns, because I kind of had an unnatural break. What I think has helped is Mrs. Gregory and I kind of meet with them weekly and touch base with their DLI teams weekly. So I feel like the teachers are always like, hey, have you thought about this? So I feel like our concerns are almost more proactive than reactive when they come up. Would you guys agree with that? Like,
is there something that you guys think of that is a struggle that?
No, I can just say that we're well supported. Like we're very, very much supported. We're not like our own little island over here. We're included in the class. And then if we have any concerns, I know probably at your all's jobs you have, you know, the big boss that you're scared to go to. They work beside us, and if there's any concerns, we bring it to them, and they help us problem solve weekly on things. So yeah, when there's any cons, we take care of it right away.
So I have two questions actually. So for that, what happens if like one of the teachers has like a long absence? Like how does that affect? Like
So,
is there anything
yeah,
that?
typically in a day, like we have subs that come in and they take our position, but however, we have the great opportunity of our assistants take over and the sub comes in. So she has a Spanish speaking teacher and she goes right along with her lessons. So if she has to be out for her child or an illness, they take over. And then she is my right hand person, she takes over and she watches me every day, so she knows exactly what we do. So far, we haven't ran into any concerns with that, but we just keep moving our
And right now we do have Mrs. Lovell had a baby. It wasn't like in the plan, but those things happen. And she had a baby. So we have a licensed teacher who is the English speaking teacher. She came in and shadowed Mrs. Lovell. These teachers are also very, very organized, and they take great pride in making sure that things are there for their students. So like I call it kind of like their little Bibles. They have like the assistant, the sub right now, she has everything and knows what those students need, where they're at. And then it's great because, you know, Señorita Marty and Señor Nuna, like they know that as well. So like they are able to help that person in the absence. But like we really work on if somebody is out and that does happen, having the person who can come in and fill those shoes.
And then my other question is like you said that with their testing and stuff for the kindergarten, does that like, I don't know how you guys make the selection, like I know you do an application, that doesn't have anything to do with the selection of the kids to be in the
DLI program is a general education program, so it doesn't matter what your score is on those screenings. That just gives us knowledge about
where
they're starting, and then that is great information because then our teachers, no matter if you're in the DLI program or not in the DLI program, it gives all of our teachers great information about where your student is and where they're starting at, because we take students from where they're at and then we build their skills. You guys have great questions.
Yeah, awesome questions.
Your kids are transferring from Spanish to English throughout the day, and you're reiterating things that you've already taught. At that same time period, other kids in non-Spanish class are not having to have that step. What's being missed out on?
So nothing is truly being missed out on. What we do is we teach things once. Because if we were trying to teach everything twice, a few things would happen. One, the kids would wait for English, so instead of just learning the math lesson, they would wait and say, oh, I don't really understand a lot of what she's saying, so I'm just going to wait for the English math. So that's why we don't do that, and that, I will say, is something I learned via research, that they were going to wait. I will say, if anything, our teachers have kind of leaned up the curriculum a little bit. And I'll let you guys chime in as well. Like, they're teaching the same week stories, they're teaching the same skills, but just a little leaner. So maybe in their classroom, they may do 5 practices. In another classroom, there may be 10 practices. Anything else you want to say on how you have leaned it up?
No, I would just say that I integrate everything into my circle time.
they're learning languages, but obviously that's what we're here. But I don't want them missing out on math skills, science skills, things like that, that I think are important, obviously. Just want to make sure that he's learning those properly as well. That's kind of my concern. You know, the language is awesome, but I want to make sure he's got math and science.
Yes, they have the same curriculum that all kindergartners have.
Do they have, when you compare the two classes, what have you, their scores, are they similar, identical? I mean, are they typically higher? Okay, well, that's.
I can say at our last meeting, the other teachers, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to. We're looking at our computer screens like, whoa, they were amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They are really learning math or not.
Yes.
Because we are teaching it different in our classes, but the tests are the same that they are doing in schools, in the other classes.
Okay.
All the tests are English. Like they're doing the same test in English that everybody is learning.
That was a great question.
Say that again.
So basically, it's like every other lesson is in Spanish or English.
All the lessons like math are in Spanish, but Mrs. Gilmore will do she might do a preview or a review of what she taught.
Or she may be providing like the essential vocabulary, so shapes and measurement. She's just providing the English words for those kids in a quick review.
Yes, sir.
On the sideboards,
Yes.
do they have to know both at that week at a time?
So Spanish progresses a bit different, but I stay with the regular kindergarten class. I know it's mind blowing, but I continue on with the same here.
But they will be learning the Spanish word.
Yes.
And vocabulary.
And something that our teachers will do also is like the students were doing the body parts. So they've learned the body parts in English, they've learned the body parts in Spanish. And then they'll come together and put all of the kiddos together and they do a bridging activity. You saw the one with Mr. Potato Head. So the students know the words in English, they know the vocabulary in English, they know it in Spanish. They also do something pretty cool so that the students know whether it's English or Spanish because they don't always know and differentiate that. They have a specific color. So if you see it written in green, it is Spanish. If it's written in blue, it is English. And students know that.
Do you teach different dialects? Do you know all the dialects, or is it majority of Spanish?
I understand. Yes. Well, for example, I can say my assistant, say she's from America,
And we kind of celebrate that all Spanish is beautiful, all language is beautiful. If it's coming out of your language box and you're accessing both languages, great, you're using what we've taught you. Go ahead. Okay, so she wants to know to the moms, is it difficult for you to understand your student when they go back and forth?
No, he'll translate for us. And they'll tell you. And I had that exact question last year. How do they fit a whole school day in, thinking back to my 6th grader doing this? And like I started thinking, do they still get music? Do they still get art? Do they still get gym? Which is very important if you ask the school boys over there losing their minds. And they do. It just works. I don't know how they make that master schedule, but they don't miss out on anything that I know of. The other thing I remember thinking is, does this mean we're going to have double homework? No, I don't feel like we have any. We usually have something in Spanish and something in English, and they know what to do. If not, there's usually messaging on the Dojo app that they'll let you know, or if you're still not getting it and the student didn't get it, they'll message you right away and say, oh, this is what you need to do. Because like tonight there was just a picture of a house, and I was like, what are we doing? He sat down, got his pen out, wrote it all down in Spanish, and did it, and they know what to do. And if not, they will tell you.
You know, at school too, I always say, so you're teaching your kids, so you need to learn it here so you can go home and teach them. So obviously they're doing a great job going home and saying.
What else can we help you with tonight? Go ahead.
How many, which I know last year was the pilot year, so data may be a little bit different. How many students did you guys have apply that did not end up into the program?
That's a great question. Our first grade cohort had 53 students in it, so we rolled with that number. Our kindergarten cohort had 66 apply. Of those 6 on the waiting list, 5 of them made it off the waiting list. So some of the families that we said, hey, you're in, you know what, we thought about it, this probably isn't the best place for my child to learn. Okay, we're fine with that. We released them off of it. Of those 6 on the waiting list, 5 of them made it in, 1 did not. That one that didn't was also an early admit into kindergarten. So
they still have the opportunity this year to jump in as a regular admit kindergartner.
Yes.
I will say, my daughter's in first grade. There are like papers that come home from the school, whatever, like, it's notes. So whatever you think they're doing in class, when they send that stuff home, and you're like, oh, that's cute, don't throw it away, you will need it. Like today, we were doing the house stuff, and I was like, I don't know what a living room is, or things like that, or how to say it. And I was just looking to the left-hand side of her photo, that's the take-home photo, and I was like, oh, look, there's a little book here that she drew, and she put the notes down on, and it was pictures of the living room. So I opened up and said, oh, look, it's this, or oh, look, it's this. And she was like, and she does correct, she does like doing the nasal thing, and she goes, yeah, it's yeah. And so she does, they give them tricks to like do the stuff. So don't throw away the classroom, use that as your notes to help.
And the teachers are never going to send something home that is brand new and that your students have never seen. That is in English, Spanish. Homework is to practice a concept that they have learned. So just to assure you is that as well. Like they're never going to send something to go, hey, figure this out, because that is not what we do. So.
And now out in the community, you have 110 other parents that you can quickly become friends with that can help you through some of these ropes too, which is exciting that we have this like great community here in Lawrenceburg. What other questions do you have?
We're planning on hanging around, so if you have individual questions you didn't want to ask, you're welcome to. I do want, if we give a round of applause and thank our staff for coming in. This is an extended day for them, so I appreciate them coming in and giving your time tonight to share about the program.
And those teachers have launched a fabulous program for us, so thank you. You have a lot to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.